back, YouTube. Thanks for joining us again. Today we're going to get into episode 2 of the Percy Jackson the Olympians series on Disney+. Right now we're just going to briefly go over the characters introduced and how they are portrayed in the book. Nathan, you want to take it away real quick?
Of course I would, Ian. So we're going to start off with other than Percy and Grover, we start with them. First they meet Mr. D, which you quickly find out is Dionysus, the god of wine, party, good times, and things of that nature. He is, in the book, described as a pudgy, he's compared to a cherub. He's a lesser god, but again, he's a god, so he's still a dangerous, powerful being.
Yeah, very quickly you find out, he might not be like Zeus or Poseidon, just controlling absolute forces in nature, but he does very quickly put in visions in Percy's head of people going absolutely insane, kind of showcasing like, yeah, I understand I'm this tiny, red-faced, pudgy, baby-looking dude, but like if you mess with me, I will ruin your life.
He's still a god.
Still a god. Next one up is Chiron. One of my favorites. He's now in his centaur form, no longer just a man sitting in a wheelchair. He's half man, half horse. In the book, he's described like a white stallion. As we know in the show, he's now brown, which just kind of does a little disservice. A white horse has a certain regalness to it, and just changing it to a brown horse was a strange choice. Oh, the wheelchair. His wheelchair's just sitting there in the show, and you're like, oh, whoa, whatever. In the book, he just straight up crawls out of the wheelchair, and you're like, holy crap. Okay, interesting. Find out right there tells you it's magic of some sorts. But in here, like, there's really at no point any explanation given to how that horse body gets in the wheelchair, how he's perceived as being a human in the wheelchair. So deal with it. We're moving on with the episode. Okay, guys.
Moving on from there, we got Luke, son of Hermes. He's not horribly depicted, but in the book, his scar on his face, if any of you have even noticed it, it's much more defining in the book.
It's just this big, awful, jagged, defining feature. Later on, we will meet Clarice. Again, in the book, she's just this beast of a person, someone that you don't want to mess with. She looks like she can snap you in half with her bare hands.
Daughter of Ares.
Ugly. I want to hammer home ugly. We may have to cut this part, but I would describe her as being built like a brick shit house. Yeah, I think that's pretty apt.
If a linebacker were a female teenager.
And then also in this episode and the book chapters, what have you, we also meet Annabeth, daughter of Athena, just smartest person at camp. Hermione Granger of this story just picks up everything quickly, loves architecture. I mean, that's about, I think, all they describe her as. Curly blonde hair, stormy eyes. Make that what you will.
She's also one of the few demigods you meet early on that are still faithful to the god. Her mother, Athena, she actually worships her and to do things in honor of Athena.
Yeah.
She doesn't see things coming, but she is opportunistic and strategic. If she is presented with an obvious plus to her agenda, like Percy and his powers, she will take advantage. Yeah. But she doesn't see things coming, as we will complain about in a very short time.
She's smart, she's quick-witted, she adapts as things come at her.
Before we get into the episode, guys, I do want to give a quick shout out to a screen name which I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Andre Roberts, which is my favorite comment we got in the first video, which was the musical was much more faithful. And while I did watch it, and I found it hard to watch, you are absolutely right. That was a very faithful adaptation. Very correct, and we genuinely appreciate your support.
Yeah, appreciated. And little side note, since we're talking about the musical. To date, we have movies, a musical, and a TV series. And somehow, the musical is the most faithful adaptation that we have. Which just depressing.
And obviously the lowest budget of all of them.
Oh, yeah, duh, easily.
Anyway. This episode is where they really start to diverge from the book and the source material, and where we start getting a little worked up. So right off the bat, starting out, he wakes up. That's accurate. He vaguely recognizes Annabeth. We don't know who it is yet. Sure. And then it's Grover at his bedside. After their little conversation and their little heart-to-heart about Sally actually disappearing or dying, possibly, no mention of a very crucial part of this story, which is when a demigod is hurt, there's 2 substances they can ingest to help them heal fast. It's godly food, ambrosia, and then nectar, which is just the classical food and drink of the gods. Cannot have too much, but it just revitalizes you, it heals you faster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that comes up.
A demigod
later.
takes it on every quest, because if you get injured, that's your best band-aid.
Yeah. World building. There's just no world building done in this show. What little world building is done is all presented in either basically just like throwaway lines.
Yep. Passing quick dumps. It's just a dump.
Weak. Another thing that's been cut out from the book that becomes important is Argus, the camp's head of security. Why is he head of security? Well, because he's a big, thick, blonde surfer dude, and he's covered in eyeballs. You don't need a security camera when you've got cameras all over your body.
I named my security system after this character.
Dope.
I really did.
Love it. So yeah, we cut out Argus, who again becomes major figure in the books. He's also the camp driver, but when we get into other episodes, we can complain about that. But the camp does have a van, and they can drive them into the city because, well, that just makes sense.
You're not going to send a bunch of 12-year-olds that are, like, already stated being hunted by monsters at all times to go walk the fields on their own.
Let's not have them just mosey about the countryside. As we, I believe, mentioned, names, words, they have power.
Right.
Grover has a little meltdown. I'm sorry that I got your mom killed. It's my fault. Grover's moaning. He's crying. And Grover mumbles, "Oh, Styx," little ancient Greek curse. And then thunder rolls across the clear skies. Why? Because names and words have power. But in the show, nope. Let's call the Furies by their names. Just let's say Kronos. No, we're not even going to get into that. We're not even getting into that yet. That's episodes away.
No, but they do. Weak. So that's a good transition into, unless I miss anything, the following scene when they meet Dionysus. They meet Mr. D. So when Grover in the book is like, "Hey Percy, like, watch your mouth here." Basically the reason we call him Mr. D is because he's hanging around the mortal world full time, and you don't say his name because it's never really explained fully why it, like, I think basically it's a source of power. You pray to gods by calling them by name, and there's a lot of them. So you got to call their name to invoke their forces, whatever they may be.
In the book, it's just there's mystery, a little bit of tension there with, like, because it takes a long time after introducing Mr. D to get to he's Dionysus.
Then we get Chiron, which, I mean, it wasn't a crucial thing, but it's kind of an important aspect of the story to show that his wheelchair was in fact magic. But anyone who's new to this story, he just appears out of his wheelchair and now he's a horse. Now, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to insult anyone's intelligence. Now he's a centaur. How did he get into the wheelchair and how did he get out? That is well explained in the book, that it is a magic wheelchair, that if you know Mary Poppins or Hermione's little bag of tricks in Harry Potter, it's like a little, like, extra space inside the space.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an electric wheelchair with some fake legs on it, so that he scooches into it, puts his horse body in it, throws a blanket over him, and it looks like it's just a person in a wheelchair. Also in the book, because this episode crams 4 chapters spanning about 50 some odd pages into 30 some odd minutes and just breezes through everything. So in the show, Percy, as soon as he's told a demigod, he's like, "Okay, got it. That's what I am." In the book, it takes him a while.
So moving along, we get to the worst part so far is when we start to see Camp Half-Blood depicted in a kind of a pan across the field kind of thing. It's not entirely inaccurate, but my biggest gripe personally is there should have actually been exposition here, some world building, And also the strawberry fields are a tiny little patch. Because Dionysus, like, his power allows berries and fruits to cultivate at an unnatural rate and yield, they fund the camp with strawberries.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be sprawling fields, and we get this little tiny patch. But yeah, you're supposed to learn about the source of revenue for the camp. Just a quick little explain-o as far as how does any of this exist. Is it all magic? No, they actually earn money for it. We're supposed to learn about Western civilization, which is a vague term describing the peak of power in the world as far as the dominant civilization, and how the gods have moved from place to place and are now set up here. And that's just an important aspect to why there's Greek spots around the country, why they're here at all, and some quick little like neat tidbits about why they're in like Europe and stuff, why you see Greek architecture in Europe.
And also to explain why they are perched atop the Empire State Building.
Yeah, this is also in this same scene is when you learn that Grover is a satyr. He's 28. They age half as fast. He's not some creepy adult hanging out with kids. In satyr years, he's just a little bit older than Percy. Feels a little less weird that way, rather than I'm 24, as we saw in the first episode.
The show also cuts out when Chiron hands Percy off to Annabeth to continue showing the camp, because it's not shown or explained, but Chiron is he trains heroes.
He's the Dumbledore. Yeah.
So in the show, we know that Mr. D is camp director, but what's Chiron doing there? Why is he special? Well, Chiron is there. He's there to train the heroes. And again, in the book, when he hands Percy off to Annabeth, he says, here you go. I've got like master archery class or something to teach. Continue showing him around.
Isn't it also in this moment where we learn about how monsters essentially respawn?
Yes, because him and Annabeth talk about the Minotaur, and he's like, the Minotaur was killed in the labyrinth forever ago. And there's only one, so how could I have killed him? And that's when we learn monsters, like, you can kill them, but they cannot be killed. They will reform, they will be back.
Somewhere in the vicinity of that chapter, we learned about these damn beads everyone's wearing. Don't get a lick of that in the entire series.
Literally never in the show or the beads explained.
But yeah, she's supposed to be his tour guide after Chiron, and that is where they run into Clarice, where Clarice is just kind of bullying the new kid, and it ends up in a fight, and Percy kicks some butt with his Poseidon given powers, and Annabeth witnesses it. And like I said, Annabeth is a opportunistic strategist, so it's not that she saw it coming, but she sees it happen. And she's like, you're going to be of use.
But in that scene, Percy's got a hold of his Minotaur horn, and he just hands it off to Annabeth and squares up on Clarice. As soon as he hands it off and squares up, Clarice has got him by the throat, and just Percy's trying to punch and kick it, not doing shit to this brick shit house of a lady. And she just just forces him into the bathroom because she's a monster. And her and her friends go to dunk his head, and he feels a pull in his gut. The pipes start shaking, and he blasts her with water.
Out of the bathroom, to be clear.
Yeah, completely out of the bathroom.
And that is into public view in broad daylight, which embarrasses the shit out of the children of the god of war.
Yeah. Not in the middle of the night where no one but Annabeth sees it. Like, nope, just obliterates her, makes her look like a fool in front of everyone, which, well, kind of makes sense now why she's gunning to kill him and capture the flag, because everyone saw her get humiliated.
Yeah.
Not just 3 people.
He mopped the floor with them.
At this point in the book, we're this many pages into it. At this point in the book, he still does not believe that any of this shit's real.
He's vaguely aware that he made that water happen. He's the only dry thing there. But he's still not fully convinced that, like, he's the son of a god. He's just like, some water spraying around when I needed to.
And then shortly after that, we get a little backstory on Annabeth about the family strain with her mortal parent, her father. Then we find out that Annabeth's mother is Athena, goddess of wisdom, And again, just some not character development, but we get a little bit more insight as to what's making Annabeth tick.
Yep.
If she's gonna be going on a quest with Percy, if any of this stuff is gonna happen, you need to have more of a relationship established prior to just her randomly being in the bathroom and then her like, oh, I knew it. Oh, I knew you were something special.
I can explain.
No, you can't.
Okay.
I'm Annabeth.
Are you stalking me, Annabeth?
Yes. Well, I've been waiting to see if something like this would happen.
That's my big complaint with her initial introduction into the show was she appears to be somewhat clairvoyant. She is, I mean, they all kind of are as the show progresses, but Annabeth is in that moment and later on in the forest is too aware and too just, you know, she's almost like, I read the books, you know, I've just been waiting for this to happen. I just didn't know if it was you or not.
All three of the characters are like that throughout the entirety of the series. It's like they read the book and they know what's happening before it happens. But another thing of world building is those woods, the woods where they have capture the flag in, like, not safe. You can't just go putting around in the woods. It's got monsters in it.
Stocked with like minor monsters for challenges mostly, but
again, at this point, while we're making this video, the series is done. The finale is aired, it's wrapped up. But at no point in the series is it ever explained some demigods can come to camp for the summer, get some training just in case, and then go back to living a normal life. Other ones either are too powerful to just be out and about in the world, or like with Annabeth, for example, their family just doesn't want them or what have you, so they have somewhere to go. But again, in the show, like the world building, nothing. We needed more time at Camp Half-Blood than we got in the show. They went through 4 chapters of this book, which is full of, granted, yeah, sure, there's a lot of inner dialogue, and if you cut the inner dialogue out and just do the walking and talking and showing parts, but you gotta find a way to put this stuff in there, and cutting out Percy and Annabeth walking through camp talking about stuff is not the way to do it.
well, yeah, because they're too busy establishing Annabeth as a completely different freaking character.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say it. It has nothing to do with the casting because I could not care less. But I will say because they botched the character so much, yeah, the casting it starts to bug me.
Yep. The characters are written perfectly. Who cares who's playing them? But if you're gonna completely change who the character is, I mean, we can at least, you know, cast Percy with black hair, Grover being a scrawny, frail-looking sack of nervousness. You get one or the other. You can't cast stupid and butcher who the character is. And at no point in these chapters in the book is it just Annabeth and Luke and Talia's whole thing just dumped out there. Because again, it becomes a pretty big point of building a relationship between the characters.
Yep.
Awful.
We also learn about the big 3: Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, children of Thanos. I almost said Thanos. Children of Kronos, the original big, powerful, the most powerful gods. We learn that
the eldest 3 males.
The reason Percy's existence is such a big deal is because these 3 gods are so powerful compared to the rest. They are the original gods. They are all powerful, controlling forces of nature, death, ocean, sky. Big elements. When they have children, those children adopt and inherit those traits, all those kinds of powers that the other gods just don't really pass on or don't have to pass on. They're more passive abilities, whereas these 3 gods have active, dangerous abilities to give to children.
I mean, they're powerful.
Super. So they make these comments. I believe in this part is where we learn that children of Hades and versus children of Zeus and Poseidon essentially caused our world war.
Yes, in the book it is explained that World War II was caused, which is why the pact was made.
Right. Pact.
They're just caused too much devastation in the world.
All we know in the show is that Percy is a forbidden one.
Yeah.
We don't know that there are 4 empty cabins. One of those just being that she's a maiden.
Well,
she's a self-proclaimed maiden. She's Artemis, I believe, right? She's a huntress. She's just
right. Artemis, and then you also have Hera's cabin, which goddess of marriage. She's not going around having kids out of wedlock.
But there's 4 empty cabins. Zeus, Hades doesn't have a cabin.
Right. Oh, okay, yeah, so there is 4. So you got Zeus and Poseidon, who are empty, and then you have Hera and Artemis, who, you know, just don't have kids. But it's disrespectful for them to not have a cabin.
Right.
So they got a cabin.
Right.
But again, none of this is explained.
No.
None of the cabin stuff is explained or gone into.
Fascinating background world building that just draws you into this. There's, you know, reading the books, you're like, wow, there's a lot more going on here than just Percy. You don't get any of it, and you get more than Percy. When, how about Leah? Let's go ahead and transition to this whole Grover freaking scene, because that's about in this realm of crap. We veer off into in the book. You know, it happens the equivalent of off screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just mentioned that Grover is going to see the Council of Cloven Elders. He's gonna get his shit reamed because he failed yet again. That's all you get. That's all you know about it.
No, and in fact, in this meeting of Cloven Elders, it's not even that he failed because he wasn't unconscious. He technically didn't fail, but it's essentially, apparently, it's just a meeting about Sally Jackson still alive. The next following scene is running in to blab it to Mr. D. That's another thing that pisses me, that rubs me the wrong way. Is like, if you wanted to get this news out, just go straight to Percy, and then I don't know. But yeah, he runs into them.
Because you're clearly not afraid. He's clearly not afraid of the gods. He's not afraid of pissing off Chiron or Mr. D. So yeah, why not just run to Percy and tell him?
It's also another thing, like, there's so much wrong with that scene because Mr. D is part of the Cloven Council. He just is. I don't know that that's ever fully explained why, but he just is in the book. But he's not in the show, so he didn't know. They could have made that part accurate so he could be there to be like, don't tell Percy. But no, instead they have Grover skip Percy, run straight to these guys, completely interrupt their like leisure time and all-powerful god of wine and insanity. And
then just disregard what they have to tell him anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's Sally Jackson. I think I know what really happened to her. She evaporated. Like a monster would. When a mortal is really close to death, Hades himself can actually reach out and...
Yes, we know. No one is gonna tell him anything.
But doesn't he deserve to know the truth?
There are powerful forces at work here, boy. Forces that have laid waste to the earth before and are close to doing it again.
Yep.
Because that sounds like a smart thing to do, is disregard what a god has told you to do. Especially like you said, god of insanity.
Yep. It's also a method of tension and, you know, excitement in the book. Is Sally alive? Is she not? Like, we know there's something weird going on, but we don't know quite what. Like, even Percy is a little like, I bet I can get her back. I bet I can try. But then Grover just blurts out she's alive. So now the audience is like, okay, I guess Percy's gonna have to figure that out on his own. And then at the end of the episode, they just ruin that. They cancel it. But yeah, in a show called Percy Jackson, we're gonna veer off, and I don't know, 4 to 5 minutes of screen time on a little Grover side bit. It might not be that long, but it was long enough to be annoying.
Long enough to be annoying, especially when you consider all the things that were cut out and just the utter lack of world building.
And all that screen time, they could have come up with a clever way to make that all work. Ugh.
Also important to note is Percy constantly, like in the capture the flag scene, he could not, in the book, he could not find a sword because he still does not have the pen, which I don't think the name of the sword is Anaklusmos or Riptide, which I don't think is ever portrayed in the film whatsoever.
Nope.
But
we still don't know the name. I've been
in the
referring
show
to it as Riptide.
Yeah, we're referring to it as Riptide because it's Riptide. But in the book, he doesn't have it yet, and everything feels like dog shit in his hands. Everything feels unbalanced. He can't wield it.
As the episode shows, he tries his hand at a few skills. The one thing he's found that he's any kind of good at is swordplay. So Luke trains him a bit, but he can't figure out exactly, he's just out of shape, essentially. And then we get hints at his water abilities when he splashes some water on him and he finally feels revitalized, and now he makes some some disarming technique happen out of nowhere, and Luke's like, whoa. Only that splash of water gave him a quick jolt to, like, the sword didn't matter. He had some faster reflexes. But yeah, no sword feels correct in his hand. That's a big part.
I mean, they cut out completely any legitimate training that he has at camp. You don't show him do anything that would help him to hone his non-existent skills at this point. You can't just get lucky all the time.
Right.
So they train him. So now we're into the capture the flag bit in the book.
Coolest part.
Favorite
part of the intro.
Fantastic. Yeah. Favorite part.
To be clear, the intro is a good, like, almost half the book.
Yep.
So much world building. That's what we're talking about here is.
Yeah.
We skipped half the book essentially.
Mm-hmm.
While hitting checklist items. That's it.
Yeah.
But, sorry. My bad. Continue.
Yeah, that's one problem. Like, again, the plot moves the plot. Like, they're just hitting checkpoint. They're just hitting a checklist. Like, okay, they did this. Now they're going to do that. No reason as to why they're doing it or what's going on in between. But yeah, so capture the flag in the book. Easily everyone's top favorite scenes from the original source material. Percy gets ambushed by Clarice and two of her friends.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3. That's true.
Yeah.
No. So, oh my gosh, you're right. Before we even get to capture the flag, it is explained that, so teams for capture the flag. It's explained in the book that a cabin is head of one team, a cabin is ahead of the other team. Those cabins then make alliances, either trading activity times, such as canoeing, volleyball, things that are just not touched on in the show at all.
Chores.
Trading chores, but alliances are made, and now it's a cabin with its alliance cabins versus the other side of the same. In the show, it's just, we're doing capture the flag. All right.
Don't kill each other. Bye.
Red versus blue. In the book, when we actually get into capture the flag, Clarice, 2 or 3 of her goons pop out and just start toying with Percy. He's not great at anything yet. His mom dying in a flash of golden light in front of him definitely amps him up, gets his god juices rolling. But as we saw earlier, he gets some sword training, but he's not super great at it yet. He does at least understand how to parry, how to do some things. But against someone like Clarice, a daughter of Ares, who's a year-round camper, he don't stand a chance.
And he's just outnumbered.
Yeah, and he's just completely outnumbered. So they're just knocking him around, cutting him up, stuff. You know, they're toying with him.
Okay.
And then he stumbles into the water. He doesn't run away. He stands his ground, but he gets knocked into the water, which he then feels reinvigorated by. So what's he do? Just goes absolutely ape shit. And he shouldn't be, but he's in the water, and he just gets all powerful, and it's awesome. At a point, Annabeth does pull her cap off, and Percy's like, why the fuck didn't you help me? And Annabeth was just like, let's be honest, you had it handled. Like, I was going to.
And it also wasn't Percy being like, you could have come and helped me, and why was I let? No, Luke is running, at this point, after he won, Luke is running across the river with the flag, and their team wins, and Percy's like, you friggin' planned this. You use me as a distraction.
Yeah.
Use me as bait. Because half their Ares cabin, half their best fighters came over to harass me, and he puts it together.
Right, like, you knew that they weren't gonna snatch the flag. You knew that they were gonna just hang out and beat me up.
But in the show, they portray it as Annabeth set this whole thing up to prove, like, I already knew he's Poseidon's son.
Yeah, I already
told you. Shoves him in the water, and he's all, well, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why?
Listen, I'm sorry.
What is wrong with you?
But then we get another great scene. Hellhound comes out of nowhere and jumps at Percy. And then the Apollo kids, being the badasses they are, stick it full of arrows before anything crazy happens. But, you know, it gets Percy a little bit, you know, it's a bad time. So he gets in the water, not
I think Annabeth does suggest he get in the water because she did just watch him be reinvigorated by water, so she has a solid guess. She's not clairvoyant, but she watched what happened and she was like, hey, try getting in the water.
Before the Hellhound happens, Annabeth notices that the water is healing him. And then the Hellhound actually comes out, attacks him, and so yeah, Percy get in the water.
Yeah, she suggested.
And then he's claimed.
But that's because she just, she watched the whole thing unfold, so she's not an idiot. She's a fucking goddess of wisdom kid. She didn't know what was happening. She just observed and took the strategic answer. Get in the fucking water, bro.
By the time I looked up, the sign was already fading, but I could still make out the hologram of green light, spinning and gleaming, a 3-tipped spear, a trident.
Oh, read Chiron's line.
It is determined, Chiron announced. All around me, campers started kneeling, even the Ares cabin, though they didn't look happy about it. My father, I asked, completely bewildered. Poseidon, Chiron said. Earthshaker, Stormbringer, father of horses. Hail, Perseus Jackson, son of the sea god. Goosebumps.
They did, I will say they included that line for Chiron. I don't think he said father of horses, but he did say Earthshaker, Stormbringer.
Because as we see later on in the show, the whole horse thing is just cut out, which can't wait till he gets Blackjack. That's not gonna make any fucking sense.
The claiming scene was adapted as well as it could have been, with the one exception of Annabeth just being semi-clairvoyant is the biggest rub with that. But the biggest blunder of this episode is, I believe, almost directly following that. We're at the cabin and they're telling Percy about like the lightning bolt, the lightning thief. We gotta go find the bolt or gods swore, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And Percy's hesitant because in the book, he's been in camp for about a week. And in that time, he's done nothing but learn, train. Yeah. He's just been being indoctrinated by his new world and learning and absorbing this new, the Greek world. And it's also coming natural to him because he's born for it, to it, by godly blood. So it's natural. So his heroic side is like, I will help, but also I will take this opportunity to see if I can bring back my mom. We've all seen Hercules. Greek heroes do that kind of crap. Yeah. But instead, the show has Grover run in. I have news. Your mom's alive. And Percy's like, okay, 100%, I'm going on the quest.
I have news.
Grover?
Sally Jackson is alive. Your mother was stolen by Hades, which means she's with him now in the underworld, where they want you to go too, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Mr. D and Chiron don't really care too much that Grover barges in and
disregarded the word of a friggin' god.
Yeah.
And a many thousand-year-old centaur.
It's a weak show.
Weak.
On its own, the show's not very great. Compared to the source material, it's so much worse.
Garbage. As much as everyone hates to say, I mean, the movies kind of stand up on their own.
At least the movies were fun.
To a point. Yeah, they still have some story issues where you're like, huh? But yeah, they were fun to watch. This is just, I don't.
Quite boring.
I think we made our point on this one, but still.
Most of the people that I have watched the show with, or have told me they started watching the show, gave up around episode 4 because it was just boring. Some things didn't make sense. They quit caring about it real quick.
Yeah, because they're wasting screen time, rewriting shit, and putting crap in that doesn't matter, and then focusing just too much on these like sad boy moments, like the prayer scene and the Grover crap and the your mom's alive. Like there's feelings to be had. They're just doing it all wrong. They're trying to cram. The whole stretch of story where Percy's worried and speculating about his mother. It's like, let's cram that all into just this one 5-second part.
Cram that all into some exposition dump.
The whole bit about Grover being like, is he in trouble because what happened with, the Minotaur and everything? They cram that whole dramatic sequence into this 2-minute clip. They're taking these big elements of the story and just condensing them down and putting them in these stupid spots, thinking like, I don't know if their strategy is like, let's try to emotion dump these people. You're not. You're expo dumping, and you're just skipping over nice story element, the nice slow reveals, the when's it gonna happen, how's it gonna happen, why is it happening? I don't know.
It's just skipping all over all building the relationship between the characters. You're skipping over any sort of mystery or tension to be built up or had.
Yeah, the only mystery in the show is why don't I know what you're doing here? Because it's the lack of world building is the only mystery that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, just ineptitude is the only mystery, really.
Yeah, so final takes, episode 2 again.
Final takes, episode 2. I mean, like you said, this is where some real complaints start to come up, and you just start getting a sense for how this show is probably going to go, and it doesn't seem like it's going to go in a great direction.
Yeah. At the time, I don't know, I think I still had hope. And I think, like you said, most people still had some. I'll give it till episode 3, 4. I think some people made it all the way to 6 before they were like, I'm done.
Done. Yep. So, I mean, in hindsight, with the overall show, like this episode's a bad omen. But having, watching it the first time, I still had hope. I was kind of under the impression of they're like, yeah, sure, they skipped a bunch of important things, but they're just trying to hurry up and get to the big stuff. But I didn't hate it in the moment, but retroactively it doesn't hold up because just too much was cut. But look forward to the review and rant of episode 3.
Yeah, that'll be coming shortly.
Thanks for watching. Leave us some comments. Let us know where you hated the ramblings the most. Let us know what we got right. Let us know what we got wrong. Let us know if you read the books.
Sure. And if you enjoy the shows, like for real, please try to justify it. Because if you come up with a solid argument, we'll listen. But regardless, we're probably gonna find some way to respond, whether it's directly or with a whole video about why we probably know better.
Yeah. Give us your opinions. We'll see what happens after that. Thanks, guys.
Good shit.